Hey everybody, it's JPierce again after another long absence. I'm back with another image walkthrough tutorial. You can always follow me on Instagram. I'm at JPierce, and I'm also on Twitter at JPierce_art. And like and subscribe this video if you want to stay up to date on Cinema 4D and Octane tutorials. Today I'm going to walk you through this beautiful forest scene with purple trees and a glowing deer and a glowing ring made out of silver vines and glowing leaves. It's a very ethereal aesthetic. It's something that I've worked on and I've become very happy with this style. If you want to learn how to create ethereal forest scenes like this with Cinema 4D and Octane, jump in with me and follow along. Let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to keep my image over here as a reference. And one thing I want to talk about first is the new Cinema 4D layout, which is different from the last time that I posted a tutorial. This has been the standard, I think, since probably about a year and a half ago. Maybe longer, but some of us like me are late adopters when we've been using the program for so long, and we don't want to have to change things. So one of the things that I found really useful when I switched over to the new layout is that there is still the option to revert the tools back to their original positions. So if you go up to here to new layouts, and you toggle this switch over here, you'll see these are all the old layouts. So if you just jump over to standard, then it'll put everything back where it used to be, as far as over here and over here, and your timeline and all of this. So I have my own setup now, with some Octane stuff up here and a few other things the way I like it. So if you've been struggling with trying to figure out where everything is, upgrading to the new cinema, they did provide these old layouts, which is great. So I have, I'm going to jump into another layout so that you can see my Octane window. So what we're going to do first, looking at our image here, is I'm going to build this ring first, just so that we have it, and we'll set it aside, and then we'll build the environment, and then we'll combine everything. And the way that I did this, you're going to start with a circle spline, and what you're going to do is I'm going to use adaptive for the intermediate points and set this to 0.01. That'll give us plenty of subdivisions so that this can be nice and curvy and everything. I'm also going to set up our aspect ratio so that I have a preset for this. I use 3200 by 4000. That is a 3:4 ratio, or it's 3.2 by 4. So I guess I don't know what it is. I don't know what the ratio is, but this is what I use. Yeah, I don't know exactly what it is. Anyway, this is the ratio that I use. I like to use, 3200 by 4000, and set it up like that. So jumping in here, we'll start with a circle. We're going to make a second circle. And this other circle we'll set it at 3, and then we'll use a sweep, and we'll drop both of these inside the sweep so that we have this little circle here. And you can see that what we're going to do here is we're going to create these kind of vines and stuff first. We're going to create this kind of neon little ring that's going to pass through here, and then we're going to create the vines. So we don't want it to be a perfect circle, so we're going to add a displacer. So by holding shift, and I have my circle selected, and I hold shift and select the displacer, it's going to automatically make it a child of that object, which is what I want. And then I'm going to go into shading and select noise, and you can see it's distorting. And let's bring the scale up. Let's take it up to like 350. That's probably pretty good. And then we'll bring the height up to maybe 25. So that's cool. We get this nice little wavy element. Now I'm going to duplicate this and call this one light, and then this one vines. And I'm going to take this one and I'm going to go into the displacer, into the noise. I'm just going to change the seed so that we get something different. And then I'm going to add this to a cloner. And rather than use the grid, we're going to use just linear. And we're going to set the Y amount to 0. And we're just going to use a random effector. So we're going to go to MoGraph effector random, and with the cloner selected, it'll automatically apply the random effector. So I'm going to go into the random effector. I'm going to change the position to maybe just 10 by 10 by 10, and then the rotation, so that we get some variation in here. Now what I'm going to do with this vines is I'm going to go into the sweep object, and then I'm going to go to this scale here. I'm going to hold Control, and I'm going to click here to add a point to the scale, and then I'm going to pull it down. Let me show you what's happening. I'll isolate it. So this lets you control the diameter of the sweep. So I want to start it at full and then get down to 0 and then come back to full. So this lets you get like a variation in the width, like a vine would be thicker in some areas and thinner in other areas. So then when we turn our cloner back on, we get some different variation. And if I turn this up more, you can see I have some thin parts down here and thicker parts over here. And then if I turn the light back on, we'll have that one going too. So maybe we'll make this one a little smaller. You can control that by controlling this. This is the profile spline, and this is the profile spline. We'll make this one a little bigger. So now we have a light and some vines, and then I'm going to take the vines, group them together, and I'm going to add this to a connect object. If you hold Alt, it will make the vines a child of the connect. And then I'm going to group these together and call that ring. And for now, I think we're going to stop right there and start working on our environment, because we have this nice looking ring that we can work with now. So we're just going to hide this, and we're going to start by building out this little creek bed and the trees and the background, and we'll start lighting it and getting everything ready. And then we'll bring the ring back in and put the plants on it, and then we'll put the deer in the background. So we'll start with a plane, a regular plane, and I like to set it to 4,000 by 4,000, and around 150 segments should be plenty. And then we will go to, I will use hidden line. That's what I prefer, because I think it gives you the best representation without worrying about textures and everything. So, and then I'm going to add a displacer to this as well. Hold down Shift, creates it as a child, and then I'm going to use a gradient, and I'm going to go ahead and set this to probably 650. So now we have basically half of half of the creek bed. So then we'll jump into this inside the gradient. We'll click on that, and then we'll move this black part to the center, and then add another node here and make it white. So now we have both sides of the creek bed, and that's what we want. And I think I want this to be intensity, not intensity centered. That basically sets the 0 to 0 as opposed to -1. And now that I have this sort of V shape, all I have to do to make it more natural looking and create a landscape out of it is just to add turbulence to it. So I just add some turbulence to it, and we start getting a very natural looking creek bed. So you look into here, and then we kind of get our camera in a place where we like it, and we'll drop in a Cinema 4D camera, or an Octane camera rather, and we'll set that as our camera. And I'm going to put in a sky as well as a daylight. And if you don't see these up here, they're under here: objects, lights, sky, HDRI. The camera is over here as well. So now we'll start up Octane render, and you can see we have just a very basic plane and this little creek bed. And I'm going to turn the sun so it's sort of facing from behind, so we get to see a little bit more of what we're working with here. Now for the ground texture, I'm using a texture from Megascans, which is going to be these rocks here. And I'm working with the new asset browser as well, which I'm getting more used to. If you want to know how to save a texture into your own custom materials, all you have to do now is drag it from here and drop it here. I'm not going to do it because I already have it saved, but it's just a drag and drop, which is actually pretty simple. So we've got our stones in here, and I think I want this around 3x3 tiles. And you can see that in this, well, my node editor sometimes doesn't load the way I prefer it to. And you can see that I've got this displacement up pretty high. It's 200, but the fidelity on this particular material is high enough that it just creates these really great looking rounded riverbed stones. So looks really nice. And we'll go ahead and add some water to this. And what I have for my water is I always use a disc with a texture. So I'm just going to import that, and I'll show you what it looks like. So it's just a round, it's a round disc. I have it set to an outer radius of 4,000, and the material for that looks like this. It's just some noises and stuff. You can go through some of my other tutorials. I'll walk through how to build out this water. It's pretty simple. It's just noise and stuff. It looks complicated because of the tree structure, but it really is pretty easy. And once you get it built out, you can just save it. The one thing I'm going to change is I'm going to change this watercolor to more of a blue, so that it's less muddy looking. I originally built it as mud, so you can see it's a little blue. And then we're going to set our renderer to path tracing as always, and we're going to set our samples to 350 and the GI clamp to 40, just to give us some room to work with. And you can play with this level, and you can play with the height of this plane as well, and it's going to give you different looks. I don't love these little rings, so I'm going to get rid of them. Nice. So this looks really nice. You can see from our original image that we're already starting to get to, you know, seeing how this is all going to be built. So I'm going to add now the trees. I'm going to create an Octane scatter object, and then I'm going to go to extensions, forester tree. Now, if you don't have forester, you can find some tree models wherever, but I highly recommend forester for replicating my process because I build a lot of custom trees and I think it's really fun and there's so many different things you can do with it. I'm going to put the tree inside of the scatter, and we're going to use the scatter. We're going to apply it to the plane, and I'm going to go ahead and group together the scatter and the plane. I'm going to call this FG for foreground. And right now you can see there's way too many. I'm going to set it to surface, and I'm going to set the normal align to 0 so they stay straight up and down. And then I'm going to set the count to maybe just 150. So now there's a lot fewer trees. And if you've seen this before, if you've watched my tutorials before, you may have seen this process before. But I'm going to add a cutoff effector. So basically the trees won't be coming out of the the lower part here where the water is. The way that you do that is you go to MoGraph effector. You use a plane effector. I'm going to bring that in right here, and I'm going to apply it to our scatter here. And I'm going to set the parameters for the plane effector to be, I'm going to select the scale, and I'm going to set that to -1 by -1 by -1. You see they all disappear. Now I'm going to add a field to that. I'm going to add a linear field. I'm going to set the linear field to Y+, and I can adjust the fall off here and bring it up and down. I'm actually going to set it to Y-. Yeah, so set it to Y-. So now you can see here, here's our U shape, right? And what this does is it allows you to cut off. So if I have the field selected, you can set the fall off using this parameter here, and then by lifting it up, I can push them farther or lower down the banks. So I'm going to make this like very tight and bring it down to maybe just like right here. And that allows the trees to be only on the banks and not here in the center, which is definitely what we want. And so there you go, perfect. And now we'll work on our tree a bit. So I want this tree, I will use, I'm going to go in to the tree library, and I'll grab this eucalyptus, which is like my favorite starter tree. And I don't need these materials. I'm going to bring in some other materials that I have saved. I like this leaf, and I like this bark because they're very simple. I'll show you what those look like. The bark material looks like this. It's just two, it's just a diffuse and a normal, and then the leaf material is it's a leaf texture in the normal, and then it has just an RGB spectrum multiplied over the image so that you can control the color of the leaves very easily. And per our image, I'm going to go ahead and set these to a nice pink color. Something in there that should do nicely, and we'll apply this to the leaf and this to the trunk, and also to the branch. So now we have a nice purple tree here, and I'm going to go ahead and make some pretty major modifications to this tree. The first thing I'm going to do is reduce the size of it, because you can see it's pretty bulky. That's not the size. You want your viewport levels and render levels to be set to 4. So we'll change this to like 0.5. We'll make it about half as large. And then we're going to double its height. So let's take this up to 2000. So now we have sort of a more, it's more compact but taller. And then I'm going to take the first level of branches, branch level 1. I'm going to take that length, I'm going to start increasing it, and maybe increase it a little more. And that helps to fill in some of this area in here. And then I'm going to take that prune parent and I'm going to bring that up some too, so that it's up a little higher. And then we'll take the spread angle and we'll probably reduce that some too, so that it's maybe not so well, maybe right in here, something like that will start looking good. And then I'm going to go back to the trunk, and I'm going to go to this cross section parameter, and I'm going to increase this root flares strength. So I'm going to make this foot part of it more wider. We'll change the count to maybe 7, and then the bias, you can also play with that, and that will control how far up that sits. Actually, we'll leave it at 5 maybe. So that's looking pretty good for our first tree, and then we're going to add another kind of tree. So you just duplicate in there. I want to use I want to use this probably want to use this this Picea aves. I don't know how to say it, but I think that's how you say it. But when you do this, always make sure that if you don't want the new materials applied, you just turn off change materials. So grab that, and then I'm going to do a few similar modifications. We'll make sure we're using the right number of levels, 3, and then we will actually increase this size again because it's pretty small here. So 0.8, and then we'll increase the height, and we'll increase this branch 1 prune parent maybe somewhere in here, so that it's not so crowded below. And then I want to add some gravity to this. So the gravity is going to, if you can see this tree, I'm going to add some gravity so that it looks a little bit more natural, I think, there at the bottom. So we're getting a pretty nice look here, but our lighting is not great because I'm just using a sunlight right now to kind of assist in being able to see what we're doing while we're modeling. So the sunlight, you know, it can create some really nice looks depending on what you're doing. But for this piece, we're really in kind of a deep dark woods, so I'm not going to be using a sunlight. I'm going to light this manually. I'm going to use area lights. So let's go ahead and start getting that ready. Actually, we're gonna create a background first. That'll help with our lighting. I'm going to duplicate this foreground, and I'm going to delete the plane out of it and just create a landscape, a standard landscape. And we're going to make it a little bigger here. and a little taller. Oops. Oops. Need to get that. There we go. And I'm going to put this into, I'm going to call that BG1, background 1. And then we'll apply the landscape to this scatter. And we'll also apply our rocks here. And we'll grab this and push it back in space. So this will help us to start getting a background going. This you can always just kind of cheat, and I'm going to add another tree that'll fill in these lower areas. I'm going to use the albizia, and then see that will create some lower areas there. And then we'll increase the count. We'll go up to maybe 350. And you can keep increasing this kind of background area here and lifting it up. And I even go ahead and just start making these trees bigger so that we completely block out the sky back here, because we don't want to see any sky. You can see in the picture there's maybe a little bit in here, but that's it. So we want to have a nice tree background back there. There's probably too many here, and a lot of this is going to be, that's looking a little better. You know, a lot of this is trial and error. You know, it's almost impossible to make the same image twice, and that's probably a lot of the fun of it, you know, for me and for most artists is, you know, you can use all these techniques and you can create so many different ideas, and you never really know what you're going to get, and you never really are able to make the same thing twice, even if you wanted to. You can get really close, but it's often very difficult to replicate something exactly. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring this albizia into the foreground too, because I actually do like it, but it needs to be much smaller. That gives us some little pops of color in here. Again, more trial and error. So now let's go ahead and start working on the lighting. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to select my camera, and what we'll do here is I'm going to turn the daylight off so you can see what happens. Everything goes black. I'm going to select my camera, and then I'm going to add an Octane targeted area light, and that's going to create a light and set the target as the camera. So I want this light to be basically pointed right at the camera, and as I move it back in space, you can see some really cool, moody stuff happening. This is great. This is lovely. It looks cool. This is why we love Octane, because it's so responsive and it's so beautiful and it's so easy to get things that look like this. So we're going to make a kind of, we're going to basically fake a, you know, an overcast kind of moonlit night by setting up a light, and we're going to push it way into the background, and we're going to go ahead and make it pretty large and lift it up so that it's kind of back in here, and that's starting to look really nice already. I'm seeing that I don't have enough tiles in here, so I'm just going to select my landscape, and I forgot to set up 3x3 back here so that it kind of matches the foreground. That's looking better. So we get this nice, really nice, moody looking forest getting set up already. And now I'm going to add a Octane fog volume. And I'm going to do that so that we get some depth in here, because we have this really nice foggy depth, and we're just going to get this very loosely set up. firstly, set this voxel size up pretty high. I think maybe around 80 is okay. And then when you go into the medium, step length around 40. And then if you set this really low, it might crash. Speaking of crash, I'm gonna I'll do a little quick save. We'll set this up with like maybe 6500 cube, and you can see that it's creating a thick pea soup of fog, and you kind of push it back in space. And I think maybe I have the voxels too high. I think like, yeah, 800, that's what I normally use, not 80. Maybe that is too high. I don't know. 450. I usually I have this saved and I have a preset for it, but I wanted to show you how you set it up. And then you can start bringing the density down a little bit on it to bring back in some of the color here. So now you just kind of have to experiment with this and try and get a look that looks something like what you like. And with our light, you have a lot of different options. You know, you can bring it in, you can bring it lower, and if you actually take this and select the Octane light tag and take the opacity and turn it off, it will kind of obscure it up in there. You don't really want to see the physical light itself. And this creates these great looking moody forests. So I'm going to actually set up a series of lights. We'll start with one here, and then we'll add another one. We'll bring it over here on the left and down below, and we'll make it smaller. And you can see it's filling in some of this area here. You could even bring it closer and reduce it even more. And then maybe we'll add another one here. And just by holding control and dragging, I can light this whole scene. And because I have my target set to my camera, it's always going to be facing forward. And the trick really is to keep them, you know, just outside the frame. So that's actually looking pretty nice already. And I think I think what we'll do is maybe just play with our trees a little bit in our foreground some more. We'll play around with the seed a little bit more. And this is fun because when you kind of play with these numbers, and you can get so many different looks, so many different ideas very quickly. I think maybe I like that. I like this big tree here in the foreground, and then you can kind of position your camera in a way that you think looks nice. Now I'm going to add a little mound here for our deer to stand on. So I'm just going to duplicate our little landscape here and scale it way down. Bring it in here into the foreground. So he has a little place to stand on. Not too far in the foreground. You can always move these trees around because they're just clones, and that's not going to be in the scene anyway. And now I think this has too many, so we just do 1 by 1 tiles here, and you can see get some nice little stones in there. And I always like to hide the volume in the viewport so that I can actually see a little bit better what's going on. And you can always be adjusting your, you know, your composition. You can always come in and art direct this however you like. Now let's bring our ring back in that we started on in the beginning. Here's our ring, and you can scale it up. And let's set up some textures for it. As you scale this, you may have to adjust, you may have to go in and adjust the profile splines, make them a little bigger or smaller depending on what you think looks good. So I'm going to make them a little bit bigger. We'll go 4 for that one and maybe 8 for this one. And you can see it's starting to fill in a little more. So I'm going to create a new Octane material. And I'm going to make just a little silver material here. And to do that, I'm going to use a universal material. And I'm just going to set the metallic option. I'll take this float and just turn it all the way to 1. So you get this shiny metal. And then I'll go to roughness and set the roughness to maybe 0.1. So you get this sort of just silvery material. And you can work on that as much as you want. I'm going to add it to our vines object here. This. And that'll make some of these vines nice and silvery. And then I'm going to create another material that will be our glowing material. So all I have to do for that is just come in and add a texture emission and connect it to the emission node. And then add a RGB spectrum and add that to the texture emission. And then I'll take the color and I'll set that to a nice blue color and add that to our light ring here. And I'm going to set this to surface brightness, and I'm going to leave it around 100. That's probably fine. And you can see I've created this glowing ring, and I think this is definitely too wide, so we'll set it to just 2. And then let's make this one bigger, maybe 12. And you can see we've got some cool stuff happening here, maybe down to 10. And then you can play around with, what I love about this is it's all dynamic, and you can play with this, the rotation on this randomness. You can play with this scale, make it more or less wavy. And as you do that, you know, you're just art directing how you want this to look, because I don't want it to look too natural. I mean, I want it to look natural. I don't want it to look too computer generated. I don't want it to look like noise, you know. So I think I do need to scale this up some more. We'll scale them both up some more. That's looking a little better. Now, what I want to do is add some bloom to our camera, and that is going to help to make this glow look a lot more authentic, because right now it just looks like it's white. So we're also going to enable the camera imager and always use the AI denoiser. We're going to turn up this saturate to white. I usually keep that at about 0.8. And then we'll add post-processing, enable that, and here comes the magic. You can just turn this up, and it will make a very intense glow, depending on how high you want that. So I'll keep that maybe around 10. And it's looking a little too white right now, so we'll take this and saturate it a little more. That's looking better. Cool, that's looking great now. You can see it's casting a little bit of glow on this tree and on this tree, and that's what we want. We want a nice looking glow. And now maybe we don't need I'm just adjusting the water here. We don't need this water to be so high. You can show a little bit more of these rocks, and that looks really nice in there. And so what we'll do is we're going to duplicate, we'll go ahead and duplicate our scatter object, one of our scatter objects. Just grab it and hold control and drag it down to the ring. And this is why I put everything in a connect. We're not going to use these trees. And we're not going to use this effector either. So got a scatter, and I want its distribution to be set to this connect here. So you can see I've got little nodes all over there, and then I'm going to add, I'm going to go to extensions, forester, multiflora, and then I'll drag that inside the scatter. And you can see there's little plants all over it now. I'm going to take it, I'm going to go to the library, turn off change materials again, and I like to use this clover, I think. So you can see now it's covered in these clovers, and we will set the normal align back to 1 so that they're sort of going in all directions. They're obviously too big, and I'm going to add the I'm going to make them pink. Actually, no, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to make them silver, and I'll add the glow, but I'll restrict the glow to the leaf selection. So that will make it so that only the leaves are glowing. So this is obviously way too much and way too intense. So I'm going to reduce the number first. Actually, no, first I'm going to reduce the number of stems. So there's 19 stems in this. I'll show you what it kind of looks like. This is our little plant here. We don't need the grass. We're gonna turn the grass off. We're gonna take the stems. We're gonna reduce the number of stems. So there's maybe only 6 or so. And then we'll change this patch radius. We'll bring it down, and that's probably good. And we can randomize the stem length too. I think that looks kind of nice when you do that. And then now I think if you want to know how these materials are being applied, it shows you under this tab, material selections. So leaf is leaf and stem is stem. So I want to assign this to stem and this part to leaf. And then now we can just go ahead and reduce the size of these and reduce the overall number, maybe just down. Cool, so that's looking really good. And I want to show you also how to create these kind of hanging plants. So I'm going to duplicate our scatter again. I'm going to go in, and instead of this clover, I'm going to get what I'll do is I'll grab this one, knotweed, which is a weed. It says it's not a weed, but it is a weed. Anyway, I'm going to go into the stems channel, and I'm going to reduce the number of stems. I'm going to reduce the patch radius, and then I'm going to, what I'm going to do is I want them to be totally straight up and down. So I'm going to turn off I'm going to set the bend to 0. I'm going to set the gravity to 0. I'm going to set the turbulence to 0, and I'm going to set the spread to 0. So now they're kind of just straight up and down, and then I'm going to take the length, and I'm going to increase the length by a bunch. And you can see now they're distributed around out here. I don't want them to be glowing. I'm going to use the silver for these. You could even use the pink if you wanted. Again, it's all up to you. I like the silver actually. I think that's going to look nice. And then instead of normal align being 1, we're going to reduce it down to 0. And you can see they're on there now, but they're facing the wrong way. So you just have to set the up vector. Instead of 1, you want to set that to -1. And now you can see that they're hanging down. And we'll take the I think they're just a little too small right now, so you bring them up some. Now you can see that we have these in here, these glowing, these silvery hanging vines. And you know, you can modify this. You can say maybe I only need 2 in each of those. And then you can add more, you can subtract. Again, you can do this to your heart's content. Now I feel like I want a little bit more color in here, so I'm going to take a second and I'm going to duplicate our original trees layer, but I'm going to delete everything except for the little smaller bush, and I'm going to pick a new seed for it. And I think what I need to do here is I need to give it its own plane effector also. So I'm just going to duplicate that plane effector. This will let me control where its area is, and I can bring it down some so that I have more of this this little pink colors in here. So I just separated out that. And now we have some nice little dots of pink in here. And you can modify that seed again, and that gives you some nice color in there. And okay, so let's grab our finishing touch here, which is I just have a little deer model here. I think it's this one. Yeah, that looks right. So we'll just take him and place him on our little rock pile here. And you know, you just scale them and get them in place where you like, and then just add my glow texture. And then you just turn them so you can see a nice profile. And that's it, you guys. I'm going to hit render on this, and I'll see you in After Effects. Okay, so now that has finished rendering, what I've done is I've rendered out the base image. I've rendered out a denoised pass, and I've rendered out a z-depth pass. So I'm going to start with my base image. I'm going to drag that in to create a new composition, and then I will drop my my denoised pass on top of that, and then I'm going to add my z-depth pass to a new composition and create a white solid, and I'll drop that behind it so that it creates a full matte. And you know, I love these z-depth passes. They always look really kind of beautiful. There's something kind of neat about seeing the different levels of depth. So we'll take our composited z-depth pass, and we'll drop that into our composition. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an effect called null on mult, which is a free effect. If you Google it, you can find it. And that's going to knock out the blacks. And then I'm going to add an effect, color correction, tint, and I'm going to use sort of a blue. Let's grab, something maybe in there. And then I'm going to use a mask and draw a mask like that. And then I'm going to go into that mask and I'm going to turn up the feather. And maybe I actually want this all the way up because our sky is sort of gray up there, and it's probably too much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to split the difference. This is just what you have to do sometimes with Octane. Just draw in this kind of fog in the background. So I'm gonna add some there, and then I'll actually go in and add some up here separately. And I'll press F to bring up the mask feathering. And this is just, you use your eye. That looks nice. But I don't love this color. I think it's a little teal. Bring it a little more into the blue tone. That's a little better. So it's, this is not an exact science, and we're not quite in the same place as the original, but it's still looking like a very cool image. I think these leaves could be a little bit more pink, but I'm not going to go back and re-render it. But that is, we can also do a little bit more of that in color correction as well. So one of the things I wanted to show you was working with optical flares a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a Video Copilot optical flares. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into the options. We're going to clear all. And I'm going to add some lens orb layers. The first one, I'm going to add a glow as well so that we can see what we're doing. I love that Video Copilot lets you kind of create all this stuff custom. So we'll do a lens orb layer, and then we'll add another one, and maybe this one we can take we can use one of these custom textures. There's all different cool stuff in here, iris spots and iris messy. We'll do that. We'll change the random seeds so they're not on top of each other. And then one of the things I've found useful is I create a lens orbs, and I make them increase the illumination radius, increase the number of objects by like a lot to like whatever it goes to. Change that random seed, and then make this make the object itself much smaller, which is here, the scale. So make these very like tiny little like dots almost, and then you can increase the brightness. We'll make it just 1. Then we get these kind of little sparkles in here. So I'm gonna go with maybe something like that for right now. Reduce these other elements a little bit so they're not too overpowering. And yeah, we're gonna go with that and say okay, and we'll change this to screen, and I'm gonna mask out just this area here around our central glowing ring, and we press F again and feather that mask out. And then we'll draw another mask. If you hold Control-Alt-Shift, it lets you draw from the center, which is kind of nice. We'll set that one to subtract. And feather that out, feather, feather, and this button here will hide masks. So you can see it's creating this nice glow, and we probably need to increase the brightness on these even more. So now we get these kind of little sparkles. I'm not sure if you can quite see it, but we get these nice little sparkles around it with this glow. And I think that looks really nice, and it's very easy. You don't have to play with particles or anything. So that's looking nice. And then maybe we'll just add another, we'll do another layer for optical flares, and we'll just we'll get rid of these masks, and we'll just use a glow and say okay, and we'll reduce this and set it to our nice blue, something in the blue area. Just to enhance the deer a little bit, and we don't need it to be too intense, so we'll mask this off as well. And now we're getting oops, feather it out. That's too much. That's good. So now we're getting some nice contrast in here, and now I'm going to add a very simple old school vignette just with a mask. And then I'll add an adjustment layer by holding Control, Alt, and Y, and say go to Effect, Color Correction, Levels, and then we'll just give it a little contrast bump. And then I like to add a second adjustment layer and set this to color mode, and then go into utility, apply color LUT. There's some free LUTs that I've linked to in the past. There's all kinds of color LUTs that you can find for free or paid, and then I just like to use these to adjust the color. I think that it looks nice. It's a nice way to kind of harmonize the colors. See, I think that looks really nice as opposed to my sort of just freehand color adjustment. That's probably a little intense. There's all kinds of different ones. I think this Azrael one looks pretty good. And then, you know, you can also just jump in and, you know, just bump up the saturation and do other things with it. I like to use topaz to push it even a little bit further. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And you know, if you want to go back and re-render these leaves and make them a little more purple or pink, then that's up to you. But that's basically it. That'll get you from beginning to end there. So I hope you've enjoyed this image walkthrough tutorial. Like and subscribe as always. Stay up to date for more C4D and Octane tutorials. I also have paid content on my website. The tutorials over there, they come with scene files and they come with textures and everything that you need to put those images together. There's all kinds of specials over there too. So go check it out. That's at joshpierce.net. And thanks again. Like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again for watching.